We know that organizations of all types are dealing with very complex questions as they start to plan their return to work. We know there's no existing playbook for many of these questions, and we know it's also not a one-time event. A lot of iteration is going to occur over time. GIS is really a great tool to do this planning because we can do it outdoors as well as indoors. So we'll look at a couple examples here of strategies for planning on different levels as you start to return to work. We'll start on the simpler end here and look at some of the ways and strategies for understanding changes in circulation flow, changes in potential occupancy or assignments, changes in where you have safety equipment. And to do that, we'll start to go under the roof. Now, as we go under the roof, many organizations will have an existing space management system, others will not. Regardless, you can use these tools to perform planning. So if you have something like a PDF, scanned blueprint, or a full space management system, you can use these tools. So one of the first things we might think about doing is understanding the impact to circulation flow throughout our facilities. And to do that, we can use our measuring tools to find those places where we may have dangerous choke points. Essentially, a choke point is any place that we have a corridor that's less than 6 feet or more wide, where we can't safely support two-way foot traffic. So if we identify this here, we can see that we don't want to have two-way traffic here because people could potentially be in an unsafe situation. We might decide to add a plan element which shows some of our flow recommendations. Or we could choose to actually put a partition here so that people can only go to a certain area. Let's actually add a circulation partition, which is going to allow us to recommend where a physical partition would be put up. This means we're going to place it here. We'll give it a label, barrier, and we'll save that. That will now be part of our living, breathing plan. So we know that we're not going to support foot traffic both directions here. There will be one way to get into these two offices and one way to get into these two offices here. If we look at other elements of these plans, it may be that we're actually out in the field. And in the field, we decide we want to add the locations of our safety equipment, like a hand sanitizer location. So if we are out on our mobile device, we find a location where we're standing that we want to place a hand sanitizer. We can check that feature, locate where it's going to be, give it a quick label, and then save that. That now becomes another important part of our plan. And since we're standing right in front of it, we could probably even take a photo of it. Another really important initial planning aspect is that of proximity and overall capacity. So if you have an existing space inventory, you can use these tools to generate the locations of assignments and understand the square foot per person allotments and how you may have conflicts. I'll jump over to another building to show some of these concepts. If we jump to, say, floor 2, and we'll look at some of the space assignments that we already have here, we can see quite a few places where we have people in pretty close proximity. We've already created a couple plexi partitions because if we look, we can see that these cubicles have very low walls. It may be that we also have certain personnel that are higher risk than others. So for any of these, we could create a new proposed assignment. If there's an existing person, we can actually edit or change their social distancing square footage. So by default, everyone gets about the standard. If this person needed more, we could say 75 feet, and you'll notice the overall size of that buffer changes. It could be that we don't want that person even near anyone else. We want to have them in a much safer place. So if we needed to or wanted to, we could actually move the location of that proposed assignment. This isn't going to affect production, but this will allow us to try different scenarios out as we find safe places for people to work. And we know that as you continue to add other plan elements and change plan elements, a lot of things are going to need to be shared. So you can always share any of these plan elements with people live, If you want to send them a link, they could see exactly what we're looking at here. But we also know that people will probably need to share these, print these out, and potentially mark them up. So behind the scenes, we generate an automated block plan, which is essentially a PDF digital version of the plan you've created. And as your plan changes, these get updated. So they're sort of automatically there for download, and people can very quickly use these to zoom in, to see plan details, to discuss, to mark up, to take out to the field if they need to. So that's leaving the simple end. And next we'll look at what it's like if you have an existing space inventory or space management system. This is where we actually put our data to work for us. So instead of going into every single space and trying to understand the capacity adjustments we need to make, we're actually going to go straight to our space classification system. So we'll go in and look up all of our space classifications. In this case, we'll look at level 2, and we know that not all space is created equal. Office allocations are going to be pretty different than classrooms. We know that labs are going to have different allocations. So if we wanted to change a per square foot per person allotment for classrooms, let's say when we first started planning, we were really conservative and gave everybody 120 square feet. Now regulations or recommendations have changed and we're down to 90 square feet. When we hit save, this is going to go out and calculate for all of our spaces that are classified this way to give us an adjusted per square foot occupant capacity. So we'll be able to see a suggestion for us based on that measure, how many people should be the max occupancy of any space that's a classroom. We can do the same thing for all of our different space types. And as we start to jump into actually managing space and understanding space, we can very quickly see the differences in before and after. So we'll ask a couple very simple questions of our space inventory through some of the filters we've defined here, and we'll be able to see those that had capacities previously that aren't supported in our current adapted capacity. So here we can see on the left, these are offices that had a capacity previously. Our adapted capacities in a lot of situations are far less than they were previously. So the next big thing is, well, how do we begin to move people? How do we actually reach a balance around adapted capacity? And there are quite a few strategies that we can use in order to do that. We can go right in and start using our move tools. So if we decided we needed to jump down to a space to start to move people around, we can use our move tools on a floor by floor, building by building basis to temporarily hold people while we're looking for a space to assign them. So it may be that we decide we want to move a couple of these people. We know we're going to be able to find spaces for them pretty quickly. So as we drag them to our move workspace, we can then find available space for them and drag them to a new space assignment, doing all this very quickly and pretty fluidly. Now, a lot of our questions and a lot of our move scenarios are going to be much more complex. We're not going to be able to just quickly drag and drop someone and do those kinds of assignments. We're going to have to actually think about an entire scenario of moving potentially hundreds of people from different buildings across campuses, or even restacking an entire building. So if we go into our move scenarios, this is another place where we can start to create and evaluate scenarios of assigning lots of different people to lots of different places without actually moving them in production. So this is a way to evaluate space planning on a bunch of different levels and use the power of GIS to visualize and understand the implications of that through different types of view bys or rendering. When we find a scenario that we like, we can evaluate it, we can finalize it, and then actually go and execute that. That has an integration over to work management, where the people that actually move boxes are able to see the entire move manifest and attach it to a work order. So on the more advanced end of the spectrum, we know that as we perform all these moves, we adapt our space, we change circulation flow, we're going to have a need to communicate all those changes with the people who are returning to work. Those once familiar facilities are going to feel very unfamiliar as they return. They may have been moved. They may find that the ways they used to get in and out of buildings has changed drastically. We want to make sure they feel safe and very well informed. So one of the tools that does a great job of helping communicate all of the planning we've done and put into production is Arcgis Indoors. So the same underlying data that we used for our planning and data updates can be used to feed Arcgis Indoors through our seamless integration. So this allows people on the web to see and understand the layouts of all their facilities floor by floor, maybe see the new space they've been assigned to and understand where it is before they ever go. We know that once they're actually on site, they're going to have a need to be able to navigate facilities better. So Arcgis Indoors also allows us to help people route safely from one place to another. If we wanted to help someone understand how to get from one building to another in a safe manner, we can actually provide routable directions. And it's probably more important than ever to be able to help people navigate complex foreign environments. So being able to route people is another fantastic capability of Indoors. Not only that, but even more advanced is the ability to do contact tracing using device locations where Indoors enabled to understand where people may have come in unsafe proximity or contact with each other. And you can do this spatiotemporal analysis to look in the past or understand things as they occur in real time. So on the advanced end of the spectrum, leveraging Arcgis Indoors to really engage and protect, ensure the safety of the people returning to work is another really valuable aspect. So these were a couple quick examples of how to leverage GIS outdoors and indoors for planning your return to work, some strategies for being able to do initial circulation flow updates as well as occupancy, putting your data to work for you if you do have a space in inventory, supporting what-if scenarios through large move projects and move workspace, as well as the power of Arcgis Indoors to be able to communicate all those changes and keep people safe over time.